right.
So, how you doing?
Pretty well. How about you, man?
I've been doing pretty good myself. Welcome, guys, to the Once in a Blue Moon podcast. As always, I'm Josh.
And I'm Jordan.
And today, we're talking about...
finances and apartments.
Don't click away yet, guys. I promise. I promise this will be interesting.
So, this one was a topic brought up by a friend of mine who's living in Las Vegas. He's trying to find an apartment with his cousin, and he wants to know, first good tips for people who are looking for apartments. Like, what would be first things to kind of, keep you in budget, things to know for first apartment time owners. Jumble the words.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
A little bit of context and background. Neither of us are professionals. Neither of us really know what we're talking about. I'm renting an apartment, though, so...
And I've subletted.
By sheer virtue, and he's in the apartment right now.
That's right.
So by sheer virtue...
Casa Jordan. Or Casa Josh.
Taking over my apartment already, I see.
This is
I think we're qualified enough.
Yes. All right.
So...
Yeah, this is a very personal view, right? So
exactly.
We're speaking from experience. All right.
So with that out of the way, there are a few things that I think, from my experience, it is nice to keep in mind when renting an apartment.
Yeah.
And I think the first one is, I think a lot of people, when they're renting an apartment, they're very tempted to just go for the cheapest thing they can find and just say, okay, this is going to be a temporary thing. Let's just grab...
If they can find an apartment to begin with, depending on where you're living. So here, we live in California. It's very, very, very hard just to find any place to live, to be honest.
Yes. I was searching for an apartment for some odd of 4+ months, half a year, and very much not having any success at all. The only reason I ended up at this specific location was because it was the first one to come back to reply back to me. So...
Yeah, that story.
It, depending on circumstances, a lot of these factors may or may not be within your power, but for a lot of other places, not in California, you're probably going to have better luck than we do here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Unless you're living in New York.
Or New York, yeah.
Which is worse. Well, actually, just as bad, if not worse.
If not, yeah.
Yes,
I'd assume New York would be a lot worse, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, God, the same place here, you're paying, around roughly 12 to 14, something like that. This is a really nice apartment versus what you can get in New York, which is way smaller, and you'll get fewer rooms, all that jazz. Might even be paying more for something like this, right? It's worse for sure.
And then you just look at the Midwest,
yeah.
And then you see houses for sale for a fraction of the cost of some houses here.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
They got pools. They got
yeah.
multi-stair. Oh my. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy, honestly. So let's really dive into it,
yeah,
Josh. We really want to know what would be some good tips for first-time apartment owners.
All right, tip number 1, don't look for the cheapest apartment possible, as tempting as it sounds. Because you're going to be in this apartment, whether you like it or not, for some period of time, whether it be a year or more. And if you were going to spend that much time in an apartment, you want it to actually be a livable experience. You don't want the cheapest option available, because typically that just makes the life a lot more difficult for you.
And that's what exactly would
you
make
could get
it
poor living conditions, thin walls,
yes,
noisy neighbors, bad locations,
that's
far
awful too.
from say where you work.
That too.
There's a lot of factors that go into just the pricing of the apartment, other than the price.
Right.
So don't immediately gravitate towards the cheapest option available. You need to find something that hits that balance between it's cheap, so I can still save up for somewhere more long term, and it's somewhere I could actually live in for an extended period of time.
Right. And you found this place during Corona,
correct?
That's right. So how did you kind of find out those things before really moving in here?
So for me personally, I came into it with that mindset because I've been hearing a lot of conflicting information from my family, my girlfriend's family, as well as my bosses saying, oh, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And it eventually kind of just merged into, well, I just need a place to live.
Oh, you're right.
And that's kind of how I ended up at this one. However, while I was looking into it with the mindset that this, at the end of the day, isn't going to be a permanent place of residence. After a year or whenever my lease comes up, I'm going to find a place where I actually want to live. And it's not going to be this apartment.
Okay.
That was the primary goal for me.
Okay. I
Finding
gotcha.
somewhere that I know I'll enjoy, but still be temporary.
Okay. Gotcha. Is that still part of topic number one or the
Yes.
number one? Okay.
Moving into topic number 2, though,
Yes.
a little bit of a transitionary step. I think it's very important for you that when you're renting an apartment, you factor your budget accordingly. And there's a lot of different methods when it comes to factoring your budget. Some people will say your budget, your apartment's rent should cost 1/3 or 30% of your total monthly income.
Really?
Yes. So say if your apartment rent costed $1,000,
Right.
you better be making at least $3,000 a month to compensate.
That's right. Yeah.
There's a lot of flakiness to that kind of story, and it really depends based on your specific circumstances.
What do you mean by flakiness?
It doesn't hold up when you get into different price ranges.
Right.
It kind of works as a general rule, but especially at the lower end, if you're only making, say, 1,000 or 2,000 a month, ending up having to spend that amount per rent,
Right.
you're only going to have such a tiny amount left over for things that you actually need to get through the month, such as food, groceries, gas,
That's
etc.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So your proportions start to shift a little bit. Likewise, if you're making $6,000-$7,000 a month, why are you watching this video? First,
Like you're well said.
yeah, and two, your proportionate rent is going to be much lower to your income, so you can balance that more accordingly. 33%
more
is a
wiggle
good
room for
jumping
sure.
point.
Yeah.
That 1/3 rule. It's a good jumping point. However, be much more careful about your specific needs and your specific income to make the right choice for you. And that kind of leads into point number 3. It's honestly the most useful point that I had for this.
Sure.
Using a budget calculator.
Yes, I'm really curious about that one.
Yes. So there's a lot of free utilities online. Quicken Loans actually has a really cool option.
That's right.
If we can pull that up sometime.
Boom, right here.
Yes. It's a handy little tool. All you have to do is input your monthly costs and then how much food you'll spend, how much money you'll spend on food per month, how much money you'll spend on transportation per month, maintenance per month,
Oh, so it kind of
clothing. Yes.
it calculates everything basically.
It does.
for
You
right?
input all those numbers,
Yeah.
and word to the wise, always highball it. Don't always assume that I'm only going to spend $5 on gas this month. Go.
Go the max.
Yeah. If you think you're going to spend $100, put 125 in there just to be safe.
Okay, that makes sense for sure.
All you have to do is input all these values into the calculator, and then boom, it'll spit out whether or not you are going to be making money or saving money per month, losing money per month, or remaining perfectly constant. And that gives you a perfect roadblock for how to move on in the future.
That's awesome. For Quicken Loans, is it free to use?
Totally free.
Totally free. Wow. And that's not the only like
No, there are a
calculator
ton
of
out
course.
there. Actually, before I found that calculator,
Yeah.
my favorite thing to do was to open up Google Sheets
Yeah.
and kind of just do it manually.
Yeah, I used to do that manual kind of thing all the time too.
Yeah.
When I was subletting at my apartment, I would calculate food, cost of living, all that stuff.
And I will say, your financial situation might be different, but
Yes.
for me at least, once I got a few months into living in this apartment, I slowly started to stop using the calculator. You start to get a feel almost for your
Exactly,
income and your living situation, and you
Right.
start to understand what does it take to survive this month? What does it take? Oh, I can spend this much on amenities, and I should probably start saving here.
Right.
You start to develop this innate sense of your money.
Right. You get used to like how much you're spending monthly, and
Exactly.
it kind of gets into like a little like okay, I kind of know how much wiggle room I have at this point right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Well, that's some pretty great thoughts. I was thinking besides those things, first we covered what was the first topic?
Don't go to the cheapest option.
Don't go to the cheapest option. Secondly, what was the second? I'm listening to this so that way I can,
Secondly, it was the 33% rule
33%.
and whether or
That's
not
right.
you should adhere to it.
Right. Like being under, with apartments being under, your 1/3 of your
Of your monthly
of your salary
income,
of your income. Thirdly, what was that?
The budget calculator.
Budget calculator. All right. So those 3 things for
Yes.
so far, and those are really great tips.
Those are really good tips. And moving on beyond that, there's a few smaller ones I do want to
Yes.
hit actually.
Yeah.
I cannot stress this enough for a lot of people out there. This kind of goes beyond just renting. Get a credit card and start building your
Is
credit.
super important, especially before going into your apartment too,
Absolutely.
right? For sure. Because like you told me, you do need good credit in order to actually, start getting loans for the apartments, or actually showing that you are responsible of being able to pay your bills and stuff like that. Of
Exactly.
course, right?
A good credit score is one of the most beneficial things to have when you're younger because it lets you get into these deals, buying a car, buying or renting an apartment, buying a house. It lets you get into these deals with very low APRs and interest rates because your credit score is high and they'll trust you with that stuff.
That's right. Yeah. That is a good topic. Nice, nice, nice.
Yeah, so I can't stress that one enough.
For sure.
If you don't have a credit card yet and you're able to get one, just go for it, get one, and use it responsibly. Pay it off every month. If
Yes.
you can't pay it off every month, just pay as much as you can every month and watch your credit score rise. It is so useful.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. That one's super important with credit cards, and just in general. That's just like a big key into responsibly paying back your stuff that you need to do,
Absolutely.
right?
You have a credit card now, right?
I do. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Discover, please.
Woo.
It started. Got good stuff. It's 1% cash back, 5% cash back on like certain things. I feel like it's an ad. But
Hashtag not an ad.
yeah. No. It's good. It's especially for like beginner credit cards. I think.
Exactly. It's a very good beginner credit card. It's a super low risk. They actually waive your first late fee.
Right, yeah. So like glad I haven't got to that point, but basically what you should be doing every time, don't spend money that you don't have. That's a good rule of thumb
Yes.
for sure. But anyways, back to apartments and stuff like that. Let's go into like some more little nuances, if anything.
Yeah.
For apartments and stuff like that. Do you think that there's anything that you should really keep in mind when you're finding your apartment? Like, say for example, you're a guy who has never owned an apartment, of course. You're moving in, you're planning to move in with a friend or something like that. And what is like the first thing that you kind of look out for specifically when you're looking into these apartments?
For me, when I was looking through apartments, the number one thing for me was location.
Location?
And not just the broader, like, oh, it's 20 minutes away from my work type of location.
Mm-hmm.
The actual neighborhood and community that you're in. You
Super
want
important.
something, obviously, that would be close to a store, close to gas stations, stuff that there are places that you deem essential or
Mm-hmm.
necessary, make sure that you are in close proximity to them, because that will add up very quickly in just gas alone.
Yeah,
getting from to and from.
whether it's gas or you're walking or you're commuting or whatever it might be, right?
Exactly.
For sure.
I think location is one of the really big ones that people can tend to overlook.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
they can get swayed by the price or something else.
Say for example, for my friend here
Yes.
that's asking, he works from home and everything. So for him, location wise, for like jobs and stuff like that, should be not a problem.
Not
at
as
all.
much of a factor.
For
definitely.
sure, right?
Yes.
So he definitely has to worry about food and or he's going to be shopping.
Since he's working from home though, he
Yes.
runs into the other issue of making sure his apartment's actually well
That's right.
maintained.
That's right. That's super important too, because like as you're working from home, you got to make sure that you don't have thin walls. You got to make sure that you don't have leaky, whatever's right.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you have at least decent lighting. That would be a nice thing. I
Nice
look
little
for,
touch.
I look for decent lighting at least. For sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. What other stuff would be great to look out for?
And beyond that, because he is someone working from home,
Mm-hmm.
I want to re-stress that point. Is a place that you're going to be spending a lot of time in.
Exactly.
So you want a place that you actually feel comfortable inside, right?
That's a good point for sure. Yeah.
Having that mentality of this will just have to do for now. It's going to suck 9, 10, 11 months into the lease. I will
Right.
promise you that right now.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, if you hate where you live and stuff like that, it's a hell.
Yes.
You can't escape it.
So you really want that place where you can call your home.
That's for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Let's see.
Beyond that,
Yeah.
more of the like little minutia things that I think should be fairly obvious. If you're someone who doesn't like smoking, check for stuff like that. If you have a
That
pet,
too.
check for stuff like that. If
Yep.
you're allergic, maybe try to find certain apartments that away from that actual requirement.
Yeah, for sure. You live in a pretty nice neighborhood, so like you don't
Yes.
have to really worry about neighbors too much or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Just depending on where you live, of course.
Oh, also, if
Yeah.
you care
Yeah.
about exercise at all, do not get an apartment on the third floor. My God,
Is that?
it is. Especially if you're carrying groceries
Yeah.
or like furniture.
Any slam or loud noise are gonna annoy the fuck out of
My
your neighbors.
goodness.
Yeah.
Carrying a 40-pound couch up those 3 flights of stairs.
Oh, that's awful too.
Not great.
That was the only really trade back to
Yeah.
really get in here.
little downside.
Yeah, a little downside.
But yeah, that's really most of what I have when it comes to advice for renting an apartment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like, just anything else that's like that comes with apartments, financial wise, food and all that stuff. You kind of figure out in the first month. Use your calculator, of course, to kind of like
Yes.
figure out all that stuff. Other than that, it's not too bad. Make sure you look out for amenities too. Got to make sure that
Ooh,
they have.
that's a very
yeah,
good one, actually.
Yeah, washer on site. If you have, a light stove or electric stove versus
gas
like
stove
a gas
induction,
stove.
yep.
Yep, all that stuff is important to look into. What else?
Amenities was actually a really good one.
Yeah.
A big selling point for this specific apartment to me was the fact they had a built-in
yeah.
exercise center.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice.
Obviously, because of COVID, we can't make use of
no.
that right now.
Well, look at that.
But it's okay because my brother bought me Ring Fit Adventure. It's all fine.
And you're living on the third floor.
Yeah.
They have a function for that though.
Yes,
Instead
they
of
do.
running, they got squats. So
It
you'll
works
do-
really well if you're not Jordan.
For some reason, every time it's like a way Ring Fit Adventure works is like you have to hook up one of the remotes to your leg, and it's a band or something like that. Apparently, I'm too tall for it, so I have to do like squats all the way to the fucking floor in order for it to actually register. So every time I do a squat, I have to go really freaking low. And by the end of it, I'm like, if I'm on expert mode, it's like 50 plus squats all the way down to the ground, and my legs are dead. So, yeah, that's awful. But
So
anyway.
yeah. But amenities is
Yes.
absolutely a really amazing thing to have.
Yes.
The inclusion of that built-in fitness center plus a built-in pool, hot tub, and
You're
and,
like it's
yeah,
right outside your
It's
place.
literally like right down there.
Yeah.
But to have all those amenities included for free with the rent,
It's amazing.
it's great. My apartment also has a garage.
Mm-hmm.
Super, super useful.
Which is really cool because like you're gonna turn into a gym at one point.
Yeah,
too.
I'm not using it for cars. I'm using it for other stuff.
That's right. Yeah, and there's a lot of parking here too. You probably should look out for that too,
Oh,
because like
parking,
a
yes.
lot of like apartments probably have like some shitty parking, like small ass. I know my aunt; she lives in some of the apartments. It's the smallest space to just like drive through and be able to just like find a spot.
Yes.
Nothing is there. It's all filled. It's crazy. But your place has the nicest parking I've ever been to at any apartment. It's so freaking crazy.
There's so much.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're lucky here. So you hit gold here, just a little bit. Like even if you have the splurge just a little bit. Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
definitely-
It is worth it at some points.
Yeah.
Just to spend that little bit extra.
Yeah.
If you can afford it,
If you can afford it,
it'll
sure.
pay off massively in ways you don't even understand until you don't have it anymore.
Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like we've got to kind of wrap it up. Is there anything else that you can kind of think of that to just kind of add for the viewers? A little
One-
takeaway home.
Abuse your maintenance man. Part of the joys of renting your own apartment is the fact that you don't have to pay for repairs if your sink gets clogged or
Yes.
your toilet stops working.
It's true. It's all.
That's
on the
not your
tenant.
problem.
Yeah, that's all the attendants. That's all the tenants
Tell that to the landlord.
or the
okay?
landlord.
That's
right. Yes,
their job, not yours.
Yeah, no, we're not. We're the tenants. Sorry.
Yes.
But
It's their problem, not yours. Take advantage of that fact.
correct. That's right. Awesome. I think that pretty much sums it up. Like
I think
everything
so.
else is like, financial calculator. You remember the 1/3 rule, 30% rule.
Yep.
Just remember the, what was it at the beginning? First thing that we talked about.
Don't go too cheap.
Yeah, don't go too cheap. Awesome. And anyways, thanks guys for tuning in. This has been a really short podcast episode, just to kind of like give it in. This is a little bit of an advice, little advice column today. So, anyways,
Ooh, advice column. That's a good concept.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That would be really fun if you
Let
guys
us know if you want to do more advice columns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hit us up on always.
What's it called?
Well, Once in a Blue Moon podcast on either Twitter or Instagram. We're on both of them. We'll see you guys then. Take care and have a great day.
Peace.
Peace out.